Welcome to the Champion Blueprint Podcast, where mindset meets mission.
We're diving into what it really takes to lead, win, and live with purpose.
From NFL locker rooms to boardrooms, it's all about discipline, core values, and the habits that build champions.
Whether you're leveling up in business, life, or leadership, this is your playbook.
Champion your mindset.
Champion your purpose.
Let's go.
Welcome back, everybody. Once again, at Champion Blueprint, the podcast, George Rogers, Gary Brackett. How you feeling today, my friend?
Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm
Let's
ready.
go. You're ready. So we born ready. Today, this conversation goes back to like my most recent memories. I even had the conversation this morning with a good friend of mine, Kyle Wainwright. We just talked about pivotal mistakes that a lot of leaders make. And they can't really keep affording to make these mistakes over and over and over and over. So how do you pivot like a champion? We're going to give you three today, three common mistakes based on conversations that I've been having recently and Gary's been talking about. And we're going to give you some solutions to that at the end on what you can do to really pivot from some of these mistakes. But I think about just in life, some of the things that I made mistakes on is when I was younger, I thought I knew it all and I knew very little.
Yeah.
Right. And I was learning. So it was like, well, I can learn from my mistakes. And
you didn't know what you didn't know. Yeah.
And so it was like, only way I can learn is if I make mistakes versus having the mentality that, people were trying to teach me, listen, you don't have to make these mistakes if you just listen and just settle down. But I was just so fast paced, man. I just wanted to go on my own. So very early on, I made a lot of critical mistakes. Now, that was in the nonprofit space where it's a little bit different, right? When I got into the business and me and Kyle, we started a small store, retail store, fixing phones and computers, iPod 4Gs, I'm talking about 2013, 2014, up in Angola, Indiana. The number one mistake we made, and it wasn't because who it was like, when you start something, who do you hire? Yeah. You hire friends and family.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And one of the most important lessons I learned was don't hire friends and family. It's a difficult conversation that most people don't understand. There's a difference between business and personal, where in some cases it's like everything's personal. Yeah. Like this ain't no business. We were friends before that. And one of the number one things that me and Kyle still to this day, if we do any business together, our friendship matters more than any of this money. Yeah, no question. Any of this. And so we always kept it real with each other. We'll yell at each other. We get mad because we were both passionate about where we wanted to go in the business. But when it was 4:30, 5 o'clock, whenever it was time to check out, we went to a restaurant, got a drink, got some food, and the friendship was still there. Not a lot of people can balance that. Yeah. But that was some of my mistakes.
You have to know like who you're in business with. Yeah. And who has the ability, right? Because I've been in business with friends or business with people, and we made money, lost money, and you could just tell someone's character, who they come out and they expose themselves to be. Yeah. One of the things I've had in business was like you said, what's the number one mistake? It was like thinking that there shouldn't be any mistakes. Yeah. Right. Being in the hospitality industry and every night something's going wrong, or you get a 1-star and you think it's the worst thing ever. Yeah. But like, hey, every day you gotta go out there, you gotta improve, you gotta get better. So I think giving yourself some grace, right?
That's good.
Because some things is just like, despite what you do and how much you plan, everything, a mistake is gonna happen. Yep. But these three that we're gonna talk about specifically today are probably ones that are avoidable.
Yeah, we talked previously, and one of the lessons I learned, we talked about like listening and getting feedback from each other. And that was one of the valuable lessons that I learned, is that if you lead without listening, it's going to cause more trouble than you can ever imagine. So 3 things, I'm gonna name these 3 things off, Gary, and then we're going to go back and we're going to start it. But I'm going to give you these 3 things, and I'm going to put these top 3 that we found from some of our listeners and business leaders that we've been helping out. Number 3, and this will be the last one we're going to deal with. Okay. Number 3, confusing business with impact. Now, let me preface this, small print in the fineness of this podcast. Yeah. We're not pointing the finger.
No, not at all.
These are lessons that we've also gone through.
Absolutely.
These are lessons that some of our friends and family, business people, mentors that we're helping out with. Number 2, scaling chaos instead of systems.
Yeah. Right. I can attest to that, like right now in the construction industry, not always dot my I's, crossing my T's. So I definitely got some great pointers on this one.
So number 1, we're going to kick off with this one. Number 1 mistake, leading without listening. Oof. Leading without listening. And let's start with this one because it's difficult as a leader to be effective if, one, people are not listening to you. When people close their ears off to you as the voice of the business, it's another situation. And that's what happens a lot is that, well, I don't listen to my leader anymore because they don't listen to me. They don't care about me.
Right.
How important is it to have open communication, number one, right? And then number two, the value of being heard on both sides of the table. What's your thoughts?
Man, so critical. So in the construction industry, I hire different subs, and there's material which they use to either put grout into a bathroom, right? Different type of backup board, different type of grout that they want to use.
Yeah.
And building and framing, they got nail guns, they got specific things that they really want, that they want to use. And if I want to go out to Menards to save a couple dollars or go to this store versus that store, sometimes they're very upset.
Yeah.
And then the project doesn't go as it should, right? Because they're not dealing with materials that they feel most comfortable with.
Yeah.
So I liken it to like, if I have a chef preparing his food, I want him to shop for his groceries.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like the same thing. Like if I want someone to execute on this ideal that we share, that they're passionate about, I want them to have some input. So I have to listen to what they want to say.
Yeah.
And I think that's so critical for me, constantly learning, humbling myself, and thinking like, there's, again, back to 10. There's a bunch of different ways to get to 10. I just want to get to 10. Like, how are you going to get there? All right, what's the budget? Let's communicate it. All right, I'm going to empower you to go ahead and get that done.
Yeah. Two of the most important leaders I always tell people to quit their job over is one who talks more than they listen,
right,
and pushes more than they pause. Like, let me pause here and make sure I'm understanding what's being said.
Right.
When leaders are always having to say something, it's then you have, and I don't know if I'm pretty sure in my memory there was a certain team where the headsets weren't working in a game. We talk about, even in those cases, I've heard stories, and I live next door. My neighbor was a pilot for American Airlines, and he was talking about navigating. It's one thing to navigate when he's used to his route. He flies from here to Florida, back, like that's his thing. He stays in Florida and he does that same trip. The next 24 hours he goes to Indy, goes back, comes back, and he's home for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And he says, George, losing communication is one thing, but losing communication in the midst of a storm is totally different.
Yeah.
When you know your route and you're used to certain turbulence, you're going to have some turbulence over a certain area. That's one thing. But if there's a storm and the communication's fuzzy, he said that's the most difficult. You don't know where you need to be in the midst of a storm. Right. And a lot of times in business is if you're going through some things and communication is not clear, there's a communication storm in a sense. Yeah. But there's a lack of connection and feed from leadership to the team, or from the team to leadership. That can really cause a huge debacle. Have you ever been on a field where communication wasn't clear and busted play, and you're realizing?
I think that's why trust is so critical.
Yeah.
Because while you should definitely listen as a leader, sometimes in a storm, like, you don't have time to listen.
Yeah.
You just have to bark out those orders. However, for me on the field as the leader, like, they trusted that I put the work in. They trusted that what I was saying wasn't for my own benefit. Yeah. Like, we had plays where I could be the blitzer and be the hero and get the sack, right? Yep. Or I could send someone else. Yep. Or I had plays where I could put myself on the easy matchup and give someone else the hard matchup, or I could take the hard matchup. Yeah. I was always going to take the hard matchup. I was always, Clint Session was a better blitzer than me. I was always going to send Clint the blitz. Yeah. And they'd be like, games like, you had 3 tackles this game. Yeah. Like, did you even play? Yeah. And they just like, bro, like, a lot of things as a leader and a lot of things I felt like I did as a football player doesn't show up on a stat sheet. Yeah. Right? So I think it's building that credibility, learning there are times when you need to communicate, when you need to listen, and then times when you're like, all right, I heard everything you guys said, but trust me, let's go from here.
That's important, because like, leading isn't, and empowering others doesn't make you weak. It creates loyalty. It creates for sure affirmation. It creates power. It creates a different insight or a different perspective of what it means. whether you have 3 tackles or 0 tackles, but somebody else next to you that you let do what they did, ball out.
Yeah.
Like that's that win together, never lose alone mentality where there's no selfishness. Like it gives so much more when you're able to essentially empower others. And so some of the things that I think about when it comes to this mistake, and I want to wrap it up, I want to give everybody that's listening or watching this some champion pivots. And the first champion pivot I'm gonna give is understanding for me how powerful one-on-ones are, how powerful going back on the bench. So defense done their job, you're back on the bench and being able to. I always watch. My favorite. I wish there was a picture-in-picture on every television.
Yeah.
That although the offense is on the field now, what's the defense doing now that they're on the bench? And it's always great now. Back in the day, it was like a folder. You were looking through pictures and you could see flipping back, trying to figure out which did they go left, who went right. To see, so you can be able to, look at that film like right there. Now you got technology, so it's a little bit easier. But I always love that check-in on the field because that meant more to me. Like the communication after you get done with that is so vital. And I translate that from the field to the boardroom and to the workplace as in, if we as leaders don't check in with our employees, eventually our employees are going to check out.
Yeah.
Right. And so whether it's you as a leader, it's easy as a leader to say, hey, I only had 2 or 3 tackles.
Yeah.
But if Sessions only had 2 or 3 tackles, but he knows that you got all those plays and that could have been him, and he knows that his skill set, he knows that what his skill is, a different problem. And eventually he's going to get checked out. And so it's important for me as a champion to make sure I'm putting everybody in place. And one thing that I always ask in these one-on-ones, there's 2 things. When you have pivotal conversations to really champion this listening, leaders need to listen. And these are 2 things you need to do if you're having a one-on-one, if you're checking in with somebody. The first thing is saying, what's slowing you down right now, right? What's slowing you down from seeing what we see? What's slowing you down from, is it having the proper resources? Is it not having the proper resources? What's something that's slowing you down? And the second one is, where do you feel the most seen or unseen in this situation? Where do you feel the most seen or unseen in this situation? And for me, that's the challenge of really making sure we're listening in the thing. Number 2, do you got anything else to say on that?
Yeah, I think those are good.
Scaling chaos instead of systems.
Yeah.
Now I know this is something that you're very like. Every time you're like, George, let's create an SOP for this.
Yeah.
I'm like, we need an SOP for a podcast, bro.
Yeah.
But that's your mindset.
Roles and responsibilities.
And you have learned that through so many different things. Talk about why scaling through systems is so important versus some businesses like, man, let's make it happen. Let's commit now, figure it out later. And we keep on going and now we're busy with things. Why are systems and processes so important in the business?
I think the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
Right? And I think typically people have really good intentions on, all right, you're going to load it. I'm going to load it. He's going to write it. He's going to write it. Like, and we're great intentions.
Yep.
But until that thing is set in stone on when it's going to happen, what day is going to happen, who's going to check it, when we're going to review it, we're just talking. Yeah. And I've been in so many situations and so many meetings where we're just talking. Until stuff is written down and there's an action plan put in place, like that's all we're doing. So now in construction, it's so critical because, there's scope of works that need to be had, there's change orders, and if we're just communicating and nothing is written down, we're just talking. Because I can assure you a week later, when you go back to that job site, oh, you did not tell me to do that. Yep. You told me black and not green. So so for me now, it's like, I got to be on top of the details. Or if not, it's going to cost me.
Yep. It's one of those things that a lot of leaders, like you said it best, like the intent. It always start with the intent. And when leaders think speed is a great thing, I always just say, man, speed without any guardrails, without any limits or signs, speed is not just a scale to success. Speed is a scale to stress.
Yeah.
Right. When there's no guardrails and no communications and no systems and processes in place, you're not speeding to success. You're speeding to stress. And that's where burnout comes in. You can talk about all the negative things where there's no system in place. But
the bad thing about that is getting off on a wrong start is like not setting the proper expectations.
Yeah.
Because once things are like let out of a hat, like it's hard to let get that thing back in, that lid back closed.
Yeah.
So I think that's why SOP, like my kids were in a new house, they got brand new carpet, don't eat in your room. Well, if I'm tired and I don't check in there and start eating in the room, next you know, they're eating in the room, now the new carpet is destroyed.
Got comfortable real quick.
Right.
One time. You said I can do it then, and I feel the same way. But I got Dexter, my 10-year-old, and he does the same thing. It's like, hey, we're tired right now. Let's go ahead and just eat in here. Just, make sure, I give him make sure you got a tray, put it on your lap. Next thing I know, he's sitting there, he's eating, he ain't got a tray. Like the system I verbally put in, but all he knew was I was tired, I wasn't feeling good.
You let me do it that time.
And missed all the important things of setting yourself up for success. And putting those systems and processes in place are so vital.
Yeah.
And you want to do that, one, to hold yourself accountable. That's the number one as leaders. You don't do it to put a guardrail up to hold them accountable. It always has to start with me.
Yeah.
Like I always say, if I find fault in all I see, maybe it's time to find the fault in me. Like it can't be everybody else's fault.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one.
It can't be Dexter's fault that the room is messed up because I failed somewhere and then put something in line.
Say that again.
When I find fault in all I see, sometimes it's important to find the fault in me. Man. Because at some point, it's not always somebody else.
Yeah, I always say there's always a common denominator.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. And everywhere you go, you find fault, then guess what? Yep. You are the common denominator.
You have to be. Like, you can't go to every room or every business and, man, she get on my nerves. Or, man, he get on my nerves. If everybody's getting on your nerves, something is wrong with the nerve. Like,
it's funny. I tell the story. So there was a woman, she's hiking. On the hike, there was these two dogs, right? Yeah. So the one dog went inside the cave, and he came out wagging his tail. She's like, what's going on? What's in the cave? The next dog went inside the cave. He came out growling, angry and mad. Guess what was in the cave?
What was in the cave?
Some mirrors. So the happy dog went in the cave and saw a whole bunch of happy dogs. Yeah. The angry dog went in the cave and saw a whole bunch of angry dogs. Wow. So like you said, you have to check yourself.
Once again, the song comes out, Michael Jackson. Hey, the man in the mirror.
That's
the man in the mirror. You got to take those reflections. And so, again, champion pivot. How do we pivot from having this mindset that we have to take over a territory? Because I remember, man, when we started the retail stores, we had Fireball Steve Barnes. We had Gary. He was like the methodical thinker. Jordan, again, deep thinker. Like, this is what we need to do. Like, Kyle, he was like just go. Yeah. Like, commit now, figure it out later. And here I am, like, all right, how does this impact the people? Like, it just having this mindset. But you really have to come to a place where you have to pivot. First thing I think that is important is having a core, whatever your core is. Right. What is the core of our business, right? What is the values of our business, and how does this value align with what we want to do here? Yeah. So whenever I'm creating a system, a process for something, how can I tell a story of this is why it's important for us, right? And so if our value in our company is to drive the business, I'm implementing a system or a process that's going to be able to drive the business. Right. And so there's accountability there. One, because I don't want the core values just be sitting here on the wall and that's all they do. I want it to be implemented in everything that we do, everything we say. And so we had this model for our culture. Like, I want this as part of our culture, this core. So wherever that core was, it reminds me of, for instance, not just because core has four letters in it, but we always use the four-legged stool. That was my mindset. Mm-hmm. And if you take one leg off the stool, your stool starts rocking. Right. And so everything for me was 4 legs. Like, how's this system? What's the 4 legs of this system that we're going to implement into our sales team? Yeah. Into our marketing team? How does this 4 legs implement this system process into why it's important for our managers to turn in their receipts, right? When they can take pictures. Like, I'm like, I want the paper just in case, for me, the number 2 rule for me was to keep me out of jail. Stay in business and keep me out of jail. Keep the IRS, keep the police. Like those are number 2 rules for me. Then we can start talking about how we're making money, all this other stuff, and system process. But that was for me. The other thing was to really pivot was an EOS. How do we create some type of system? Right. Having OKRs and systems in place. And then the third thing from a system process, so we weren't dealing with chaos, was really defining what it looked like to really impact our people. So development. And how can we champion them to be leaders? within their own path, whether it was a technician, whether it was a sales rep, whether it was a manager, was a regional district manager. What does that look like for them? And what are the roles, responsibilities, and impact? All right, roles, responsibility, and impact. Because I want them to know their role and their responsibilities. This is what it impacts on the business. Because the moment you understand what you're impacting, you see a big picture.
Yeah.
What was, and this is off subject, not its own subject.
Yeah.
What is your favorite out of all the systems you implemented? What was your favorite, but yet maybe most difficult system that you had to implement? Whether it's on the field, in the locker room, whether it's in your restaurant business, or even now in the real estate business.
Yeah.
Was there something that was like, man, like you hated it yourself? Like it wasn't just everybody else didn't like it, but it was like, I see the benefit of it, but man, I don't like this system.
I think, man, what system? I think like the nightly notes that people had to write, to close out their shift.
Yeah.
And we wanted it so detailed because we were going to do year-over-year sales, and we wanted to be better than we were last year.
Right.
Well, if it's the random Thursday and we had a big pop in business, I want to know, like, hey, IAA had a convention in town. These many people came over afterward, or this things, because those are things that I would teach the managers. Hey, a week in advance, you're going up against an 8K week. Like, what happened during that week last year, right? That that we need to duplicate.
Yeah.
So it was like people will write these sloppy notes at the end of the night. I'm just like, no, do over. Like, what was the sky? Like, did it rain?
Yeah.
Like, I need detail in this thing. Yeah. And people were just like, it's tired, it's late, we had a shift. I'm like, yeah, that's even more why I need detail. So I think that's something, because people don't want to do the color commentary.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much to be seen from understanding what exactly that situation was.
Yeah. And that goes to say that if you do the system once, it saves you time. And time every time after that, right? If you know, especially when you know events are coming or something's coming in there, if you be able to say, hey, last year, this quarter, we had X, Y, and Z. How do we, because it affects everything. It affects your orders.
Yeah.
Right? It affects how you can market, how you can improve your marketing and be able to scale that. And so it's setting you up for success. I love that idea. Number 3, because I believe great business doesn't just happen.
Mm-mm.
Great businesses don't just grow. They grow and they scale on purpose, with purpose. Number 3, the third mistake, confusing busyness with impact. Now, this is to a fault. I'll admit this is one of mine early on, because I was like, never had time for a lot of stuff. And this is in my mindset, Gary, where I had to come to the acceptance of I didn't have time management issues, because I realized I ain't never met, still to this day, a person that can pause time, rewind time, or add more time. So I can't manage it. When I think of time management, I think of a lack of priority management.
Yeah.
I had the same time as you do, but your outcomes are 10x compared to mine. It's a priority issue. Or I'm in the wrong position, right? But my schedule was always full. My calendar was always full. And I feel like I was doing so much, and I realized I read a book called The One Thing. And I realized I was doing so many different things that I didn't master one thing on my list. Or I started something, I didn't finish it because I had to put out this fire. I didn't have your fire extinguisher over here, so I had to put out that fire. It was like and I don't ever want to be in HR. I love supporting. Yeah, I love HR people, but it's like at times it was always reactive versus proactive in a sense. And a lot of times that's what leadership does, where there's lack of systems and a lack of communication and listening. You're always reacting to stuff, and you're always just busy. Yeah, but not effective.
I think John Wooden, basketball coach, USLA, he won 10, 12 championships. He had the quote, never mistake activity with achievement. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. Some people are so busy that they can't find the time to make any money.
Yeah. It's the hustle mentality. Like if you're not tired, you ain't hustling. Right.
And really it's alignment. And what I found now is like, there's a bunch of activities that need to get done, but there's probably 3 things that if I got done today, it's really going to move the needle. Yeah. So let's focus on those 3 things. And it's typically 3 things that I don't want to do. Yeah. right, that I would love to avoid and procrastinate.
Right.
But I know I move the needle by making big achievements. I don't move the needle by making these little things, right? So I think, setting the systems up where you have your systems dialed in and you have your activities that's going to lead to your results. Then you have to just be consistent about doing those activities day in, day out. And I love to say, fall in love with the process and divorce yourself from the outcome.
Fall in love with the process.
Divorce yourself from the outcome. So many people, when you set up systems and when you set up these processes, you might not quickly reach your goal, your destination. So then what happens if you did everything? I've been eating good, I've been working out, and I still haven't lost any weight.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop altogether. I can assure you, you're never going to.
Man, I feel like you're speaking to my soul, man.
Right?
Time out.
So you got to fall in love with the process, bro. Yeah. It's like over time. And then again, it's still no guarantee. It just increases your chances of the likelihood of you winning.
Yep.
And that's all I want. I just want to increase my chances to the highest level I can. I don't think they're ever gonna be 100%.
Yeah.
Right. But if I'm 80s, 90s, right, I can. When I lose, I can say I know it's not because of the effort that I'm putting in, because I've been working. So I'm gonna keep on working, and eventually I'm gonna start stacking those wins.
Yeah. So being busy isn't always being effective.
Right.
So some championship pivots here that I want to give people. Number one is that for me, and because this was personal to me, one of the things that I had to do, Gary, is I had to shift from activity-driven type leadership right to outcome-driven leadership. It was a different mindset. It was like being active didn't always mean I had a good outcomes.
Yep.
And so I had to shift that and really pivot to say, all right, I'm getting rid of all these activities. And as I referenced the book, The One Thing, what's the one thing? You said three things. I had to start at one.
Yeah.
And then I can look at some of the other small. But what was my one thing? What was the big thing today that nobody else can do that I need to do?
Right.
And I had to put it on my calendar. That was blocked.
Yep.
Don't call. If you call me twice, that means it's 911.
Yeah.
If you call me twice and it ain't 911, that's your last time you get to call me twice.
Yeah, exactly.
The answer, like, don't be the boy or girl that cries wolf. But I had to lock in my time and block that time to make that one thing my priority. And I encourage people and I coach people to do the same thing. Like, what's your one thing every day?
Yeah.
What's the one thing for the week? And then how do you get there each day so that you can have the outcomes that you're trying to drive towards to be able to find success at the end of the week. So you don't look back and be like, man, that's Friday and I still got all this. Yeah. There ain't no mazel tov. There ain't no celebration. Yeah. It's like, man, I still get, and then you find yourself working at home, working around your family, working at the dinner table, working on the weekend, and you're burnt out because you didn't pivot from activity to outcome-driven leadership. And that's something, that was the first thing I had to do to really pivot from this busyness versus effectiveness to have that impact in my life.
The one thing, and I think that will help people, and it really helped me, his coach was Ray. He was a special teams coach. I always butcher his last name, but he used to always yell and scream. In football, there's 11 guys. We always talked about doing 1/11th, right? Do your job. Yeah. And then he would always yell and scream, don't get bored doing the right thing. Don't get bored doing the right thing. And so many of us has the propensity that we've been doing the right thing for so long that we want to reward ourselves for doing the wrong thing.
Well,
that we just want to see what would happen if. Right? And it's just like, no, you don't. Like, you see some of these successful people, Mark Zuckerberg, they wear the same shirt every single day. Right? And they don't get bored doing it because it works for them. They don't have to make a decision on what shirt is going to wear. It's going to be a black t-shirt. And I'm going to go out here and rock out today. So when you simplify your life and you don't get bored doing the same things because that thing actually works, that's when you locked in.
And I'll say this to wrap up the champion pivot for this aspect is that think about what can I delegate, what can I automate, and what needs to be eliminated. Right. So what's one thing I can delegate? What's one thing I can automate? What's one thing I need to eliminate? And really change that. And so when I looked at my calendar, it was that. Right. Get 3 things down. What's the one thing that I need to focus on today? Then I can impact those other 2. But then also delegate, automate, eliminate. Right. And get those out. to be effective. And so, listen, there are so many other mistakes that you can make as a business. These are just 3 that we have that as we have these conversations. Delegation we can talk about how the lack of delegating is at the door as well. I just had that conversation with my friend Kyle Wainwright, where it's like, what's one thing that you struggle with in business? Delegation.
But this is one thing I would love to hear from you.
Yes.
What things do you think hinder you in business? What things have you found you struggle with? Because obviously we're going to keep on rocking out with podcasts. And we want to keep on adding to the list of what things, and then also give solutions on how people can overcome those things.
Right. Let's do that. And so remember, listen, stop leading without listening. Don't scale chaos and stop worshiping busy.
Yeah.
Busy is not always effective and it's not always giving you the outcomes that you desire in some form or fashion. You may have gotten the outcome from a financial standpoint, but is it good at the health of your mental or even physical? You can't even enjoy it or celebrate those moments. And so making sure you're taking care of yourself. Gary, I appreciate it, man. Once again, another podcast down here.
Let's go.
Champion Blueprint Podcast. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember, champion your mindset, champion your purpose.